The writers originally devised a biography for a convict character. There was an idea that here in the lawless world of the infected, this escaped convict, sick of wearing prison clothes, had taken the effort to loot a very expensive white suit from an abandoned clothing store. He might as well survive the apocalypse in style. This concept gradually evolved into the riverboat gambler.
Guns here!
This balcony was designed as a fish-in-a-barrel moment, where the survivors can come out to the street and pick off a bunch of the wandering infected, without being in much danger. We felt it was a good introduction to our interpretation of Bourbon Street, giving a nice, atmospheric vista without too much immediate threat.
Level designers in Left 4 Dead 1 placed individual items, such as pipe bombs, Molotovs, and pills, all over the levels. The AI director had the ability to pick which instance of each item to spawn. This meant that pills would never spawn in the same place as a pipe bomb or Molotov. In Left 4 Dead 2, we decided that we wanted more variety in item spawning, so we now simply place an entity called a weapon item spawn. The AI director not only chooses whether or not an item will spawn in a given location, it also chooses what type of item will appear.
We deliberately sought to design iconic French Quarter locales that would be fun to fight in. This jazz club gave us a nice large interior space that offered a break from exterior streets and alleys.
Over there!
One of the challenges with melee weapons is getting them to feel right and look decent. In order to get the fire axe to look right when playing the game, it had to cross the screen within 3 or 4 frames. To enhance visibility, we swapped between the normal axe and a smeared version, along with a particle effect to cheat a motion blur. The smeared axe hits at the correct time, but allows your eyes to follow the action.
Because sound is such a crucial gameplay element in Left 4 Dead, the designers needed temporary sounds to test out ideas for the new boss infected. Sometimes we were able to pull temp sounds from unused performances in our library, but in Left 4 Dead 2, the sound designers did their own temp performances. The goal with these is to be just functional enough to test the new character's viability. As such, some of the temp voices for the characters were quite funny. While inappropriate for the actual game, some of the sounds were highly popular within the team, and it was common to hear animators up and down the halls mimicking the early Charger test calls.
Left 4 Dead 2's level designers started out by experimenting with variants on the proven designs of Left 4 Dead 1. For example, we tried out several situations where there was a benefit to splitting up the group. We soon found that Left 4 Dead 1 had done such a good job of training people to stick together, it was incredibly difficult to get them to separate. We abandoned that experiment, but retained some of the elements to apply during crescendo events. For example, in the mall gun shop sequence, it can sometimes be advantageous to send 1 or 2 survivors to retrieve the cola, while the remaining survivors stay on high ground to provide cover.
This is the only traditional crescendo event in the Parish campaign. In Left 4 Dead 1, every crescendo event was essentially a button press where players held out in one spot until the infected stopped coming. While we added the onslaught and optional crescendo variations, we felt that the old-school Left 4 Dead style event still had some life in it.
Looking at reference from New Orleans, we saw a lot of images of Mardi Gras. We decided we couldn't have a campaign set in that region without a parade float. We designed our float to look a bit sinister. Whereas most jester heads are typically bright and goofy, we wanted ours to be a bit darker and more scary, so we made the model appear more angular. We also chose colors that were less cheerful and more in keeping with the fall festival.
ride's here!
Valve has a history of supporting community developers and helping to promote their creations. And with the Left 4 Dead games, we've taken the opportunity to make the great content our community produces even more accessible with our new add-on system. Content creators can package new campaigns into a single add-on file, which end users can easily install. Users can now view titles, descriptions, authors, and other information for all of their installed add-ons via an in-game interface. Add-ons work seamlessly with the matchmaking system so that users can quickly get into games featuring community campaigns they've already installed and can easily download new ones to try. The response to Left 4 Dead add-ons has been very positive, and we were happy to see huge, all-new campaigns being played within weeks of the system going live.
Given the realistic nature of Left 4 Dead, players expect the zombies and survivors to move in natural ways. However, animating that kind of motion by hand is very difficult and time-consuming, and anyone can tell when it's not quite right. Since we don't want every zombie to move the same way, a large number of motions are required to provide enough variety. All of these constraints drove us to use motion capture. The process of motion capture really begins with the character designs. Once we've decided how we want the survivors and zombies to look and behave, we audition actors just as we would any other performance piece. For instance, a 265-pound high school coach moves very differently from a 115-pound TV producer. Using one actor for both roles would be a mistake. So we look for people who fit the body type and who can bring out the character's personality and their motion. On the other hand, in the case of the zombies, we consider them more like feral animals. So we'll use only one actor for all of them, regardless of gender. We then provide the studio with a digital character, a list of the moves we would like to do, and the props we'll need. Once actors are chosen, we head to the studio and spend a day with them recording the motions we need for the game. It's a very physically demanding day, and in order not to exhaust the actor early in the session, we oscillate the captures between high and low intensity actions. Just try crouch walking 40 feet as our survivors do, and you'll feel the burn. But that's just one of hundreds of motions we record for each character. During the session, we can watch the actor's motion applied in real time to our character model, and work with them to get the look we want. In some cases, we do multiple takes to let the actor provide us with different perspectives or to add some variety. We also record the actor on video during the motion capture to use for extra reference. With the motions recorded, the studio processes the data, and then it is up to us to extract the motions we want to keep. For some motions, we need to create loops. For example, to create a run cycle, we may only use half a second from the 3 seconds of running we recorded at the session. We augment these recorded motions with adjustments or additions by hand, and then compile them into the character models you see in-game. Realistic human motion is very subtle and noisy, and we can all tell subconsciously when it isn't quite right, even if we can't articulate why. Without motion capture, the characters of Left 4 Dead wouldn't be nearly as convincing or as interesting as they are.
After we shipped Left 4 Dead, we heard a lot of positive responses about the infected that were unique to their locales. There were patients in the hospital, cops in the streets, and TSA agents in the airport. We wanted to add further variety to Left 4 Dead 2's campaigns, so we decided to include an uncommon common infected for each campaign. The first to be added was the Ceta guy. Once we got him in the game, we realized that his uniqueness should not merely be visual, but should extend to gameplay as well. In the case of the Ceta guy, his hazmat suit suggested that he should be impervious to fire. We extended this notion when we added the Mudman, the Clown, the Construction Worker, and the Riot Cop.
In Left 4 Dead, our designers could place alarmed cars in levels. When shot, these cars would flash and make noise, attracting the infected horde. Unfortunately, the alarmed cars would be located in the same position on every playthrough, taking away from the desired unpredictability. In Left 4 Dead 2, designers can now place groups of alarmed cars and let the AI director mix and match which cars have active alarms, if any. For example, in the section of the game that you've just played, there are 3 such cars whose alarm state the director can control dynamically, making this area less predictable from game to game.